Okay, so we discussed the second half of the 14th chapter. Okay. Prabhu, we discussed which chapter? Second half of 14th chapter in the previous class. So what were the main points on the second half of 14th chapter?
We talked about the three modes of nature and what it begets basically.
What does it beget?
Mode of goodness, true knowledge.
Knowledge and happiness.
Mode of passion, greed, and mode of ignorance, foolishness or...
That was last to last class.
No. Pakka last class only.
Because I mean the recap of the last to last class in the last class.
No. Because I missed the recap, so I am 100% sure it is not.
Lord explains the important condition.
And we also said about Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, who are the devotees whom we should avoid, etc. So devotees who do devotional service based on proud, envious, violent. So we should avoid those kind of Vaishnavas or devotees. Essentially you spoke about 14.18. Essentially the key memory verse you spoke on 14.18, where the crux of the verse is to what we hear is what we are, what we would be basically. So hearing would beget the mode of goodness basically.
Yeah.
So that was the verse, essence of the verse 14.18.
Correct. Good point. So, what was the verse? Anyone remember?
14.26.
No, which verse says that by hearing, then we can lift ourselves?
No.
What verse lifts us beyond Rajagun and Tamagun? This one? From Bhagavatam.
Which
You have
one?
to cross reference.
Text 26. Maharaj knows which one.
3.5.13. 3.5.13.
Kada Rajas Tamo Bhava. We saw that verse no last time. So therefore importance of hearing. Okay. Madhavanand Prabhu also asked me a question last week, saying that nowhere it is written in verse number 16. He said, where is it written in the purport that it is all about hearing? But whatever I am speaking in the class is not only from Srila Prabhupada's purport. It's from Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is from Bhurijan Prabhu's Unveiling the Lotus Feet. It is also cross-referencing Gauranga Priya Prabhu's notes, and then what I hear in the lectures. Okay, so there are so many things when I am saying it comes from, and then my own personal experiences, if any. Right? Bhurijan Prabhu writes in the purport to verse number 16. If you see surrender unto me, there Bhurijan Prabhu writes in that verse specifically that you can overcome the modes of material nature only by
Constant hearing
every day. And we also talked about, it's called daily confidential hearing.
Confidential hearing.
Yeah.
In Bhagavatam, those verses clearly state the importance of hearing.
Correct, but Madhavanand Prabhu had a specific question in that verse where it was.
Bhagavad Gita perspective.
Okay, so in that verse purport it may not be there directly, but in fact in the next to next purport also it is already there. No? What was the last verse which we did in
27.
14.27 also Prabhupada talks about Navaveda Bhakti, again he mentions hearing over there. Okay. So hearing is the only way that we can overcome the three modes of material nature. Daily we can keep the three modes of material nature in check only by the process of hearing. So that is very important. It's very simple. Last week when Govind Prabhu was here, many of us spent a lot of time hearing from him. So did it not change? Improve our consciousness? Definitely it had an impact. So, and in fact this week, Devamrit Maharaja's classes were there. Such nectarian classes Maharaj has given. No? So definitely for me personally, it made a lot of impact hearing from Devamrit Maharaj. When he said, simplify your lives. All our problems are because our lives are not simple. Simple living. So then it matters a lot, and it comes at a very right time. When you come from office, then you hear this, then it really, you feel yes, it's worth living, like that. So hearing from 70 persons, definitely it will lift us above the three modes. So when we come from office home, usually we are in a mode of passion, or we are in the mode of ignorance. Either we feel lazy to do anything, or we are very, agitated, in the mode of passion. So then, suddenly when we hear Bhagavatam, it lifts us First it brings us to the mode of goodness, then it lifts us beyond that and it makes us reflect. So that is the power of hearing. So at no point in time, whether it is written nor written, hearing is the solution to rise beyond the three modes. Okay, so today we will go to chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. We will try and cover 11 verses today, at least 8, but maximum 11. Minimum 8 verses we will cover, and next week we will complete chapter 15. It's a small chapter, only 20 verses are there. Now before that, story time. Okay. Slightly difficult, but anyway, we'll try.
Zoom it loses.
If I zoom, it becomes too big. I can't see it. Technology. Okay, so my notes are not there, so I am going to read from the Kindle. So the glories of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called as the Yoga of the Supreme Person, or it is also called as Purushottam Yoga. So you have studied and come? No? So the Falashruti is as follows. Lord Shiva is talking about the glories of 15th chapter with Parvati. So Lord Shiva is mentioning that in Gauda Desh there was a famous king by the name Narasingha. Now this king was so powerful that even he could defeat the demigods. Such a powerful king he was. And this powerful king, he had a commander of his army whose name was Sarab Merund. I don't know why someone keeps such a name. Sarab Merund. Or maybe I have to pronounce it in a particular way. So this Sarab Merund was a commander of the army. Now he was a very greedy person and he was very envious of the king. So along with the prince, he made a plot to kill the king. What was the name of the king? Narasingha. Which place? Gauda. Very good. So he wanted to kill the king, but before he could kill the king, he contracted cholera disease. Okay, and he died. Who died? What was his name? Sarab Merun.
He is the commander, isn't he?
Correct, but his name will come in the exam. Match the column. So which chapter, who was the person, who just the place? 15 marks. Okay. So this Sarab Merun, what happened was he died of cholera. And then what happened? In the next birth, he became a horse, the Sarab Merun. Now, though he took the form of an animal, because of some karma, he was a much sought after animal. He was one of those horses on which you can bet and win. And these horses are always very much in demand. So very beautiful horse and very fast horse he was. So what happened was, there was a very rich merchant who was there in Gauda Desh. He saw this horse and decided to buy him with the intention of selling it to the king and making it a profit. Again, he wanted to sell the horse to Narasingha from Gauda Desh. So he took the horse and he brought it. He did a nice bargain on the horse. He took it and brought it near the king. And when the king saw the horse, obviously king was very enamored with the horse. And king said, okay, whatever you ask, I will pay. Mu manga inam, dam mein dunga. So then obviously he quoted a very high price for the horse. The king gave the money. And then the king boarded the horse. And then king started going for hunting regularly with this horse. So one day when he was going for hunting, he went, there was a deer he saw. And he was chasing the deer, so much so that he left all his entourage behind. And then he got lost. So he went, the horse is going chasing the deer. Finally he came to a particular place where he said, no, I am going to now take some rest. So he tied the horse to a tree. He sat down, he was thirsty, he took some water and he was resting. As he was resting, there he saw a particular, a small bit of a letter came from somewhere. In those days, the letters were on leaves, kind of, paper made from trees, a special kind of leaves. There is a specific English word for that. Huh? Paki what?
Papyrus.
Not papyrus. How do you go? Next page.
Next page is only one touch.
It's called as a parchment. Okay. You know what's a parchment? I also knew yesterday. Okay. Parchment is a letter. It's called as a parchment. Letter in olden days they used to inscribe on the parchments. So he saw a bit of a parchment fly to him. Some kid needs attention, I think. So the parchment flew. In the parchment, something was written. Any idea what was there? Huh? Yeah, not the entire. How can full 15th chapter be written in a parchment? So there was part of a verse of the 15th chapter has got so many verses. One verse, and there was a part of that verse on that parchment. So as he started opening his mouth, he read the first sound he made of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What happened? Horse died. You told me this, no, I would have gone to the first verse. You have read and come, huh? Story you will read and come, but you will not read Bhagavad Gita.
Guess, Prabhu, guess.
So
many stories. We hear so many stories.
Okay. So immediately the horse collapsed. And then what happened?
You got a 400.
It had got a 400 pound. And then went to Vaikuntha. There was a chariot which came, took the horse. So he was amazed. He was like, "Ye kya ho raha?" And then he walked further, and nearby he went to an ashram where there was a sage. Okay. So he went and asked the sage, what is going on? The horse went back to Godhead. So the sage said that when you had tied the horse and you were sitting there drinking water, that time the horse heard the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There was a recitation going on from the sage. And then the horse simply heard it and went back to Godhead. So hearing this, what did King Narsingh do? He went back to his kingdom. Then? No. It's not so easy. So having read the 15th chapter, what is the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita aimed at? Detachment from the material world. He got detached, he went to the forest, practiced devotional life and went back. Okay. So if you think just by reading 15th chapter you can go back. Practice it, you have to get detached.
Horse straight away went and this way is...
Because that was a horse. Shall I pray for you? So that is the glory of 15th chapter. But it said that by him simply hearing 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is the potency. So we should not rule this out as simple stories. These are actually Shiva telling Parvati. This is very powerful. Reading all these chapters are very powerful. We never know what Shukriti we are getting by studying these chapters on a serious note. Like that. So it may sound very repetitive, that 400 form and going like that. But that is what Shiva is telling Parvati. Okay. So verse number 1. The yoga of the Supreme Person. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Oh, it's so simple. So, Nero Prabhu, you want to read?
After the
After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in the Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hands meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upwards because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extricating should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to chapter 13, we have seen that devotional service to Supreme Lord is the best way. Now the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from the material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to this material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upwards. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded, with so many branches, representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entities' activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upwards, but there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside the reservoir of a water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In the other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. He can cut off his relationship with it. This tree, being reflection of a real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalist like Brahman to be in the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the 5 gross elements, then 10 senses, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the centers by 180 degrees. And the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself. And that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to the material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world.
So what are the points?
This verse refutes impersonalism.
Pardon?
This verse refutes impersonalism.
This verse what?
Refutes impersonalism.
How?
Because it says that the variety that we experience in the material world is a reflection of the variety in spiritual world. So if there is variety, there is not just one Brahman. Because there is variety, there is a perverted reflection of that variety which comes in the material world.
Okay. So yes, what you are saying is reflection is illusory but not false.
Yeah.
In that sense, it defeats Mayavad. Is that what you are concluding?
No, I was saying that because it's a reflection, there can be reflection only if there is something in real. So because there is a variety in the spiritual world.
Okay, fine.
Only that because that's the reason we have a variety here.
Okay.
Shadow of the substance.
Correct. So there is a relationship in the spiritual world, and therefore there is a perverted relationship in the material world.
So there is no absolute oneness.
So there is no absolute oneness. Okay. So good point. Very good point. Good realization. And then, as you were speaking, I also realized that yes, this is a defeating Mayavad in another way.
The false. What did you say? That it's not illusory. It's false.
Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. That is what the Mayavadis say. Which means that the material world is false. But reflection is not false. The fact that there is a reflection is real. But the reflection in itself is illusory. Correct, no? So therefore this material world is not false, but it is illusory in nature. So in that sense, yes. The analogy of reflection in water.
But to get the
Also
reflection,
defeats-
there should be an object.
Yeah, there is an original tree.
Yeah.
There is an object, which is what he is saying. Yeah. So in both ways, if you see, it defeats Maya. Yes. Anything else?
We are entangled because of the desires. So in the material conception, we just going from one branch to the other, and it's just repetitive, birth and death, birth and death. Again in the material world.
Origin Prabhu makes a very interesting point. You know that Ashwattham is banyan tree, but I think one of the Acharyas explains Ashwatha as the one that does not exist tomorrow.
Correct. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Ashwattham can be taken as that which will not exist tomorrow. And this is true both for devotees as well as non-devotees. For devotees, the material world does not exist tomorrow. Why?
Because devotees will go back to
Yeah, because devotees will have nothing to do with material nature. And for non-devotees also, the material world will not exist tomorrow. Why? Because the material world will be annihilated at some point in time. Either the non-devotee will be annihilated, and therefore whatever material possessions he has will no longer be available with him after death. And in one sense, the whole material world itself will get annihilated someday. So in any case, Ashwattham means that which will not exist tomorrow. Everything in this material world is temporary. So at the end of chapter 14, Lord Krishna he is talking about three modes of material nature in chapter 14. So at the end of chapter 14, he described a person who transcends the mode of material nature by the process of devotional service. So he has spoken that. But it is said to attain devotion, to attain bhakti, one needs to cultivate some amount of detachment from the material world. Now it's a recursive process in one sense. Bhakti leads to detachment, and detachment is a quality which needs to be cultivated to strengthen one's devotional services. So it's interactive in one sense. But regardless of anything, what comes first? No, bhakti.
Bhakti.
Okay. If we tell in the science of self-realization, Bhakti Vriksha week 0, all of you have to get detached before starting the chanting. How many people will come next class?
No one.
They will get detached from our class, that is for sure. Okay. But otherwise they will not come. Correct? So therefore, first is always bhakti. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prajita Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadayakam. So knowledge and detachment will come automatically as a result of bhakti. So bhakti is more important. That way even the Mayavadis are detached. Right? So detachment is not over and above bhakti. The most important rule is what? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Okay. But that doesn't mean detachment is to be neglected. Detachment is one of the key components in bhakti. Detachment will aid our bhakti. As long as we are very attached to our bank balance or job or house, dehapatya kalatra adishu, atma sainyeshu asatva api. Tesham pramatto nidanam, ashyanapi na pashati. Deha apatya, we are attached to our body, wife, children, apatya, kalatra, adi, etc., etc. All these are what? Asatva sainya. Sainya means what? Infallible. Asatva, infallible soldiers. They cannot save us. Fallible soldiers, sorry. All these are, Krishna is only infallible, yes. They are all fallible soldiers. Sorry, I made a mistake. Fallible soldiers. None of them can save us at the time of death. They cannot come with us, or they cannot reverse the effects of time on us. So therefore, detachment has to be cultivated in the process of bhakti. And Prabhupada has given us a regimen by which we will cultivate gradual detachment. Our attachments to things like tea, coffee, alcohol, onion, garlic, everything has already gone, thankfully. And hopefully it will not come back. Correct? Slowly, our detachment from television also reasonably has gone. Right? Our detachment from watching mundane sports or Bollywood movies has also gone. Right? Our detachment from gambling on the stock market to make money is also gone. Right? So these are all things which most of us will easily surmount. The greatest detachment that many grihasthas will struggle with is
opposite sex.
Yes, the desire for illicit sex within marriage. So that is one big challenge. So that will also go at some point in time, right? And then what is the final thing to go? The pride that comes along with all that. We will get too attached to our detachment. So that attachment also has to go away. Correct? So slowly, this detachment will happen as we dovetail our activities in the fire of bhakti. Like that. But certainly, detachment can also, we need not wait for our chanting to detach us. Certain things Prabhupada has given us as a regimen. For example, Ekadashi, once in 15 days, to detach us from the pleasure of the tongue. So some regimen Prabhupada has also given. Too much attachment to sleep, Prabhupada has given a regimen of 16 rounds. So we know that if we don't chant in the morning, like today it happened, I did only 11 rounds in the morning or 12 rounds. And then even till evening it's remaining now. I still have one more round to go. If I miss that morning chanting, then it's gone. Full day is misery then after that. So Prabhupada has given that regimen to us. That by which we will become regulated in our life and get detached from sleep. Prabhupada has given us a lot of activities to do in Krishna Consciousness, by which slowly we will start getting detached from the idea of enjoying within the family life. Right? Me, my wife, my son, my daughter, my father, my mother, and then just being within that family. So Prabhupada has given us a mission by which we go out and keep Krishna in the center of our relationships. So, to attain devotion, there are a lot of things that Prabhupada has given for increasing our detachment. Now, here Lord Krishna, in the first 5 verses, he begins by explaining the need for such detachment. And he explains this with a metaphor or an analogy, comparing the material world to the Ashwatha or the banyan tree. It's an interesting point. What is water? What is the analogy of water here? What does it represent? Water represents desire here. Water represents desire. Because of, if the water is not there, will there be a reflection? At best there can be a shadow, but not a reflection. Correct? But there will be no reflection. There will be no reflection of the original if there is no water. So if in our life material desires are exhausted and we become akinchana, then the material world does not exist for us. That illusion is not applicable to us anymore. We come face to face with the absolute truth. So water represents desire.
So do you mean the material desire over here, is it? What represents material desire? Right?
Yes. That is why there is a reflection. So Srila Prabhupada cautions us that one must not be very enamored. So it is again mentioned, this analogy goes on. The various branches are referred to what?
Different lives.
Yeah, different lives. So there are various ways in which the Bhagavad Gita is mentioning this. It is mentioning that the different branches, you can say as you go higher and here, you can also say they are different planetary systems, different evolutions of species, human species. So animals are the lowest in the tree, then higher than that are the human beings, then higher than that are the demigods, and then there are people who are in the Satya Loka, who are almost going back to Godhead, like that. So it gives a gradation. And then it says that each of these branches, also it is also mentioned different branches are different activities. The twigs of the branches, there is an analogy which is given, which you can read offline. The twigs of the branches are the sense objects, and then they are in touch with the they are the senses or the sense objects. Yeah, the meeting point is the senses, and then the twigs are the sense objects.
Tips of the branches are senses.
Tips of the branches, yeah, the tips of the branches. So like that. So there is a lot of it's explained in a very it's explained in the form of an analogy. Essentially, what Prabhupada is saying is that this tree of the material world, it gives us a lot of nice fruits like cherries and berries, like that. So one must not get very attached to the fruits which this tree provides. Rather, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of knowledge and detachment. So that is the main point that is coming across. In fact, in the first 5 verses, the same point is repeated in different ways. This is called as Hridaya Granthi Abhedanam. The same point is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hridaya Granthi Abhedanam, which means cutting the knot, severing the knot of material desires from the heart. I was hearing a lecture by Gaurang Prabhu. I haven't heard it fully, but it's a very beautiful lecture. As usual, one of Gaurang Prabhu's classics. It is a lecture which is giving on the importance of Namaste Narsinga prayer. It's a 1 hour class, probably more than 1 hour. Has anyone heard this? You heard? You heard this, no? So he starts by saying, what is Namaste? Why do we say Namaste? And he says that Namaste has been replaced by what? Hi. That is Vedic culture. Nowadays he says Namaste has been replaced with Hi, and after Hi it is Chai. So in that class he gives a very nice example. He says that if you are, is there water? Anyone have water? है पानी नहीं चलेगा अरे कुछ नहीं है सर. Thank you, mother. Thank you very much. Thank you. So he mentions that imagine that you are tied to a human being is tied to a big truck. Okay, remember this? Human being, you are tied to a very big truck. Of course, there is no driver inside the truck. The truck is stationary. You are tied to a big truck, and then you are boasting to everyone. See how strong I am. The truck is not even moving an inch. You are boasting like that to everyone. And then Gaurang Prabhu says, after some time, after you finish boasting, the driver of the truck comes and he puts the truck in reverse gear first. And then the truck is coming nearby, and then you are a bit cautious about what you want to say now. And then he says that the truck is coming near you, and suddenly, as you are thinking, the truck driver puts the gear in forward. As he puts the truck in reverse gear and the truck is coming closer to you, you are again boasting to everyone, saying that, see, by my power, how The truck, I am able to move closer to me. And then he unfortunately puts it in forward gear after that. And then Gauranga Prabhu says, you are finished now. Your boasting is over now. Right? You know what will happen to you. Now he says what to do. If the truck is put in forward gear and you are tied, then what do you do? How do you save yourself? Huh? Because you don't have any control over the driver. He won't listen. You can cut the knot and then you are safe. Then whatever happens to the truck, however fast it runs, you have already severed your ties. So this is a very simple but sweet, nice example that is given. So that is how this material world is. The three modes of material nature will drive us here and there. They are tightly bound us. So we have to cut that by the power of knowledge, from where we will get detachment. So this is very important. Because attachment is the cause of all our miseries in this world. Attachment is also the cause of our next birth. So this chapter, the initial few verses are all talking about detachment. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So, depending on which branch a jiva is located on, he possesses a certain material body and specific type of senses. Right? For example, if you are lowermost on the branch, then almost like animal species, then your senses are not so evolved. Right? You have a certain type of body and your senses are not so evolved, and also your senses demand different things. If you are lower down, for example, a hog demands human excreta for its nourishment, right? Whereas a human cannot stand human excreta, correct? A human wants something which is higher than that. Similarly, when the demigods are looking down upon us, then they may think that, okay, what are these guys enjoying? There's hardly any enjoyment here, right? Because even if it is mentioned that the denizens of the ladies in the heavenly, the apsaras of the heavenly planets, there is no comparison of the ladies of the material world. In one class, it was mentioned that the Gandharva voice is so good, so mellifluous when a Gandharva sings, that no human being can even be conscious when a Gandharva is singing. You will fall unconscious. Such is the singing of the Gandharvas. So therefore they are much more evolved than we are, higher up in the banyan tree, like that. So depending upon which branch a jiva is located, he possesses a certain material body and specific type of senses. And then in this verse it is mentioned that according to the combination of the modes of material nature, based on where the location, where you are with regard to your location on the tree, then according to that the three modes of material nature act on you. So at different locations, different ways it acts, the three modes of material nature. And therefore, according to the combination of the modes of material nature that influence that particular part of the tree in which you are located, a jiva then will be attracted to particular twigs or sense objects. Again, it's all very simple, but it is mentioned through an analogy. That's why it sounds a bit complicated. Okay. It's mentioned, everything is mentioned through the analogy of a tree here. But it's very simple. Depending upon how evolved you are, to that, so the modes of material nature will act on you accordingly. Like that. So people who are on the upper heavenly planets, which mode is more prevalent there? Mode of goodness is more prevalent there. In our mode of passion is there. And you go down, then mode of ignorance is more prevalent. Like that. And as you go up and up to Satyaloka, then the existence becomes more and more subtle in its nature. So, existence is decreasing in its gross nature and increasing in the nature of its subtlety as we go up and up and up. Till then, one crosses the Viraja river and there is no material existence after that. Also it is mentioned that the jiva, the conditioned soul, travels from one birth to the next birth. The jiva drops from the higher branches of the tree, which is demigod life, to the lower branch of animal life in its pursuit of pleasure. More and more we want to enjoy, lower and lower you come down in the tree. Like that. And as you perform more action, fruitive action, you only get more and more entangled in this material world, causing more and more deaths. Like that. So Srila Prabhupada writes that this planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Like today in the evening Bhagavad Gita class in Saturday, I was explaining that this place where we are is a karma bhumi. So when you are up, whether you are up or whether you are down, you are only enjoying the results of your good activities or you are suffering the results of your bad activities. But activities are usually done in the karma bhumi. We are in the world of activities. So therefore, Prabhupada writes that this planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. If you read this verse 2, Prabhupada mentions that. Karma is only accumulated in the human form of life, okay? Not in any other form of life. So Prabhupada concludes by saying that one must know these principles of evolution, if you like, from the Vedas and elevate oneself within this tree. Go to more and more subtler existence and then finally transcend material existence altogether. So that is the summum bonum of verse 2. Any questions or points?
Just out of curiosity, on verse 1, the purpose of Vedas is to completely understand Krishna. So do we have any reference exactly where the Krishna himself has said? Is it like
15th chapter, 15th verse. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah iti jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya vedantakrit vedavidevacha. Next class we will do 15th verse. That time you will know. Lord himself says, I am the goal of all the Vedas. From all the Vedas I am to be understood.
When you said that as you go up and up, the existence becomes, or the sense becomes subtler and subtler, in what way it becomes subtler?
The existence becomes more and more refined. You are lesser and lesser in the bodily concept of life. That is why it becomes more and more subtler. The influence, you are entering into higher and higher realms of intelligence. Right now, we are so much in the bodily concept that our intelligence doesn't function much. Right? We are more driven by our bodily needs right now, of the gross body. Correct? So if we sit in a Bhagavatam class, for example, we will sleep. Why? Because our body, our gross body is taking control of our intelligence right now. So we are more and more servants of our gross body. We are more in the bodily conscious, more in the gross body consciousness. As we go higher and higher, then our existence becomes more subtle. So the awareness of the gross body, the dominance of the gross body on the soul is lesser and lesser. That's why it is said existence is subtler. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. And there, surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So Prabhupada is mentioning here essentially that, or this analogy also tells us that no one can understand the origin of existence through scientific research or technological means or deployment of any material techniques. No one can understand the origin of existence in that way. For example, you can go on and on, saying that where did plastic come from? Plastic came from resin, resin came from whatever, petrochemicals. Then where did that come from? From whatever, petroleum. And then where did that come from? Earth. And then where did earth come from? So you can go on speculating like that, but one cannot find the origin of this tree. By that process you cannot arrive at God, by a process of backward integration. Okay. So that's what this is. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. So mundane philosophers, they call this world as false. Some people call this world as real. Yahi सच्चाई है. And some people will say this is Mayavadis will say this is all false. Right? So two extremes they do. So both are unable to cut down this banyan tree. But Prabhupada says, but the banyan tree nevertheless must be cut down. We have to cut down this banyan tree. It has strong roots, Prabhupada says. Strong roots. Suviruddha moolam. Strong roots. Therefore, because it has got strong roots, it cannot be pulled down. It can only be cut. Daivi Hesha Gudamai. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. It's a very difficult tree to pull down. But it can be cut down by the weapon of detachment, which will come with knowledge and devotional, followed by bhakti. Okay? Knowledge without bhakti again will not lead to detachment. Because it is said, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Parajita, not Jnana Yoga Parajita. Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadagatam. So that knowledge will also come with that bhakti only. And because knowledge comes, detachment will come. So bhakti, knowledge and detachment. But bhakti comes first. So therefore chanting, whoever, whether one can give up alcohol, one cannot give up alcohol, one can give up meat or not, we always tell people at least you chant. When you chant, then you will be able to eventually. So this axe by which this tree is cut, this axe is made of detachment. Axe is made of detachment as well as renunciation. And this axe is sharpened by knowledge and discrimination. It is said. So cut down the tree completely, Prabhupada says. What do you mean by completely? Such that again the tree does not grow. What is that verse we did? Very good. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva narayana agam dunvanti katsalyena nihara miva bhaskara. Devotional life will remove the weeds of sinful action in such a way that it will not come again.
As the sun dissipates.
Just as the sun dissipates fog by its rays. So weeds of sinful action, not weeds of sinful reaction. The desire to even perform sin will go away. Not to speak of only handling the reactions. So bijam, kutam, everything will go away. So therefore we have to cut this tree completely so that there is no trace, and that can be done only by the process of bhakti. So Prabhupada says, cut this tree in such a way so that it doesn't even come up again, lest our minds runs towards sense gratification. Gurujan Prabhu writes those words. Lest our minds runs towards sense gratification. Again, sometimes it can just, all of this can come back. We can never take our purity for granted in this world. So we cannot say at any point in time confidently that I will not fall down now. Can we say like that? Nobody can say like that. Because the moment we say that, then we are immediately tested. So we cannot say anything. All we can do is we can pray and have gratitude that we are not having certain temptations. Does it make sense? But we cannot declare that no, we will not get tempted by certain things. But we can have gratitude that we have been able to overcome by the mercy of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Like that. That's why Gurujan Prabhu writes, lest our mind runs towards sense gratification. It can go back anytime. small traces can become big, like that. So, Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 1, text 9, Canto 1, chapter 9, text 26 also talks about counteraction by detachment. This is the section which Devamrit Maharaj was also talking about, where Bhishma Dev is instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira in this verse. If you can go back and refer this verse, very nice purport. 1.9.26, if it is there. Bhishma Pitama is saying that we must perform counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Counteraction by detachment. Counter Maya by the process of detachment, and interaction with who? Krishna, by attachment. And to Krishna's devotees. Because it is also mentioned that if you develop attachment towards the devotees, then gradually you will develop detachment to the material energy. Right? Prasangam ajaram pasam atmana kavaya vidu sa eva sukrito mokshadvaram apavatam. So, the attachment to saintly personalities opens the door to liberation, and attachment to non-devotees binds us to this material world. So therefore a devotee usually, unless your old friends are very keen on bhakti and you want to preach to them, otherwise we don't have anything to do with anyone. We are not victimized or enamored by alumni association activities and blah blah, all these things. Useless waste of time. Everyone comes, drinks together and flirts and then goes away. So all this nonsense. And thankfully, we are all safe from that. Otherwise many of us will be in trouble going to alumni meetings. God knows what all we did, in college. And who we meet and all that. Very difficult. Better thankfully we are safely in Prabhupada's shelter now. So did you find out 1.9.26? So counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. So Prabhupada says the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. So how do we perceive this world then? How can we understand the real form of this tree? If we cannot perceive it with our senses, how can we understand it? By Shruti, correct. Or Avaroha Pantha. By hearing from persons who are Tattvadarshi, who have understood the absolute truth. By surrendering to them. Tadvadi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. By inquiring from Tattvadarshis, then we can perceive the nature of this. Because they know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They also know the science of detachment. How to detach can only be taught by a person who is already detached. That is why it's so beneficial to hear from saintly personalities. So we wish Devamrit Maharaj would do more seminars next week also. Right? We had a nice initiation also yesterday. It was very purifying to watch all these things. It just purifies your consciousness. Gives you more and more desire to go back to Godhead. How many of you attended the initiation ceremony? So Prabhuji forgot your name once again. What's your initiation name? You are also thinking. Navadvip Vasi. Navadvip Vasi Prabhu ki. So 6 people got initiated, not 5 people. 5 Prabhujis, 1 Mataji. Navadvip Vasi Prabhu also got initiated. Very purifying, all these things. Just sitting in the morning with Devamrit Maharaj. Otherwise I would have been in a meeting somewhere in the office. Better sitting here and listening to his class. Hopefully, all of us, how many of you in a hurry to retire fast? If you don't raise your hands, Lord will bless you to continue. Again we are asking, how many of you want to retire fast? See, now everybody is raising. Yes, so that is the nature of a devotee. We want to finish up our activities fast.
Work on the weekends.
Huh?
Work on the weekends and
Yeah. Now, detachment, therefore, comes how? What is the fastest way of getting detachment? Again, the process of hearing. Hearing from saintly personalities. Detachment will come by hearing. Detachment will come only by attachment to Krishna. Only when higher taste is there, then lower taste will go away. So like Devamrit Maharaj lecture, he was mentioning about how we have to simplify our life. He was emphasizing the importance of simple living and the importance of swimming deeper in the process of bhakti. Because if we are doing bhakti superficially, we will not get the real taste of devotional life. We have to swim deeper in that. And Maharaj was mentioning that most of the problems in our life are self-created because of our endless waves of desire. And then when the desires are frustrated, then Maharaj, he said, oh, my PR has not come, my this has not come, my that has not come. We are frustrated. But actually, do we need a PR to be happy? Right? It is because of our desires. Somehow we have desire. We want to come abroad, foreign mein jane ka. You have to make money. Right? One house not enough. You want, no. One apartment is not enough. Correct? You want big house. No. So this is an endless desire. So Maharaj said, till we are in this chakkar, we are never going to be happy in this material world. Because fulfilling these material desires is like pouring fuel on the water. Pouring fuel on the fire and not water on the fire. It will only increase. The more you fulfill, only it will increase. Especially lust. The more we engage in lusty activities, even within marriage, it's not going to happen. Okay, boss, abhi, let's engage and let's exhaust our desires. That's it. No. More you engage, what will happen? More you want to do. Ye dil mange, more always. Dil never mange less. Okay, that is the problem. Correct? So therefore we have to cut that at the root. So it's better to be busy. One has to pack one's life in such a way that there is no time. When there is fizul ka waqt, then politics, vajalpa, sex desire, all this comes flowing inside. When the glass is not full. But when the glass is full, then there is no time for anything to enter that glass. Correct? So that is the only way we can attempt to overcome. Increasing our activities in bhakti is the only way for normal conditioned souls to get completely detached from sinful activities, which we otherwise will automatically, naturally perform because of our conditioned state. And hearing lectures of personalities like Devamrit Maharaj last week, which we heard, or Shankarshan Adhikari today, very brilliant, question and answer session we had in Mill Park. So these are all very purifying. When we, especially I was thinking, because at least I'm sure most of you as Grihasthas, our idol is like Gurujan Prabhu or Shankarshan Adhikari. That is what we want to do in our Vanaprastha ashram. How nice, no? Two couple, Mataji and Prabhuji going everywhere all over the world, delivering people. That's exactly, at least personally, that's what I also want to do in my life. But we have to get prepared. It is not going to come easily. Someone asked Maharaj today a question. Maharaj, you and Mataji get up at 2:30 in the morning every day and chant. How is it possible? Maharaj said, just obey the alarm clock, that's all. That is so difficult, no? Very difficult. Even at 5 o'clock when that rings, in the winter time, when you are putting that kambli on top of you, like that, and warm and heater is also on, then I realize it on Sunday mornings. Tomorrow morning, when it is very freezing cold and it's warm and cozy and you are deep sleep and then suddenly peep, 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 you can't go late because the 80 doors are to open. What to do? Then you run. Correct? So every time, Saturday night, that time, I dread the most. Because I'm thinking, how nicely, others will be sleeping and I will get up. But one thing is that, once I wake up from that bed and I go and take that shower, then I'm thinking, how the hell does this world sleep? at this time. That time I am thinking like that. Because you are fresh and so eager to go and open the door and take darshan of the Lord. That's a different experience, and then you think, how can anyone sleep like that? But when you are in bed, you are thinking, oh, how do these people go for Mangala Arati? So the mind is that way. So therefore he said, all you have to do is obey that alarm clock. Because once you become vertical from horizontal position, then everything is gone. After that you come to your senses. Only that is the moment of struggle, that small struggle. And because of that 1 minute, then everyone is very scared of coming for Mangala Arati, including myself. Like that. But it is just, that's it. It has to just let go of that chadar for 1 minute. Hurry, whoa! Like that. Padak, you get up. And then you are there. And then you will never repent it. You will never repent having come there. You will not think, oh, I could have slept. It will never happen. That is a guarantee. But getting up is a big thing. So therefore, hearing from these personalities and seeing their lives is very inspiring for us in getting detached. Also, regular Srimad Bhagavatam study is very beneficial for cultivating detachment. That is why 2 verses are given. Hridaya, what is that verse? Before that. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Shravana Kirtana. Hridayantasto hi abadhrani vidunoti surasatam. Then Nashtaprayeshu abadreshu. And I think after that only that also comes. Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lopa Jayasi. So all these verses, if you read second chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives very good insights on how to get detached. Like that. Very beautiful chapter that is. So, regular discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam and the scriptures in the association of devotees is required. Therefore, these study groups which you all are doing, it is better you don't stop that. It is not mandatory from a course content point of view. Even if you don't meet and you study for the exam and you clear, nobody is going to know. Right? There are no marks for attending the study group. But you will find that when you get into a study group, the mood is different. Definitely you will benefit by regularly coming together and studying Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we study Bhagavatam, you know how the mood is. So Yogeshwar Bhuvan Prabhu's family, my family, Dhruv Bhanu Prabhu, every Janeshwar Prabhu, we have a fixed group, Bhagavatam study group. When we come and study together, then what is the kind of mood that we all are in? Like that. So that is what Srimad Bhagavatam lifts your consciousness like anything. So regular discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam and scriptures in the association of devotees can lift us from the 3 modes of material nature and help us do that Hridaya Granthi Abhedanam. Cut the knot from the material world. This is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25. There is a very nice verse. 3.25.25. If you want, you can open and see that verse. Satam prasangat mama virya samvedam bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha tad doshanad asu apavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukrameshyati. Anukrameshyati means in that order. Shraddha ratir bhakti comes all in sequence. Simply by what? Satam prasangat. In the association of devotees, mama virya samvido means you discuss my pastimes and my glories. Lord Krishna's pastimes, if you discuss, then Asu Apavarga Vartmani. There is Mrityu Samsara Vartmani, which is cycle of birth, disease, old age and death, and then there is Apavarga Vartmani, transcendence. Asu, very fast. Tad Joshanad Asu Apavarga Vartmani, very fast you are lifted into the transcendental platform. Shraddha, Ratir, Bhakti, immediately what will come? Faith will come, taste will come, and pure love of Godhead will also come. Simply by studying Srimad Bhagavatam and in the association of devotees. So it's a very powerful method. Because the activities of, in the association of pure devotees, it is mentioned in that verse that discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. Bhavanti hrit karana. Hrit means what? Heart. Karana means ears. Hrit karana rasayana katha. They are very satisfying to the ear and heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, which is the Apavarga Vartmani. And thereafter he is freed and his attachment becomes fixed. And then real devotion and devotional service begin. So actually, we can only start really getting the real, we will only start doing real devotional service on the platform of Bhava Bhakti. Right now, what we are doing is practicing devotional service. But real devotional service only begins when there is taste. Right now, we are trying to get a taste by artificially doing. We are pushing ourselves to do bhakti right now. But by doing that, by the mercy of the Acharyas, when we get taste, then sleep will become a impediment. Today, getting up for Mangalarti is the biggest impediment. But when we get taste, what will happen? Sleep will be an impediment. You say, oh, why? I have to sleep now. Like that. So I can't chant. It's like that. This body, it's compelling me to sleep now. So bad. Like that. Today it is exactly opposite. I want to sleep now. Oh my God, this bleed back. It's like that. So everything is ulta when we get taste. Like that. Okay, let's go to verse 5. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain that eternal kingdom. Okay? This is a very nice purport, so we should read this purport. So, who will read? Hema Gauri Mataji, you want to read?
Yes.
Loudly, yeah?
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature, it is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by the familial, social and national affection. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God.
So nice purport, Prabhupada. Any points you want to share?
Pride is something which is so subtle that overcoming which only one can surrender, otherwise it is an artificial surrender, though we say something. The actual surrender comes only when you overcome the pride, which is very, very far basically.
Pride is actually the opposite of surrender. You will surrender only to someone
when there is no pride.
When you are thinking low of yourself. To that, with regard to that person, you are subordinate. There is no question of surrender. So pride. So freedom from pride is one of the qualities of a person who surrenders. So here Lord Krishna is describing the process of surrender and also the qualities of one who surrenders. Freedom from pride and also freedom from bodily attachments. So both are important. Otherwise one cannot surrender. If one is proud and has too many bodily attachments. For example, Prabhupada I think was mentioning once to someone that we must surrender to the Lord and then go back to the spiritual world. From where you don't have to come back ever into this material world. And one gentleman asked him, Prabhupada, I am from Jhansi. So how will I go back to... He was very attached to this place of birth, Jhansi. If we have such attachments, then we don't have any incentive to surrender. Then we can be born in Jhansi in many, many lifetimes. In different species of life. So there are 6 symptoms of surrender that Rupa Goswami mentions in Nectar of Devotion. What are 6 symptoms? Anyone knows? Anukulesa Sankalpa. Which means what? Whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, we must do. That is one symptom of surrender. What is the second one? Whatever should be avoided must be avoided. Whatever is not favorable must be avoided. And what is the next one?
Faith that Lord will protect.
Yeah, Rakshesheti Sa Vishwasva. Protection of the Lord. Next is Goptritve Varnam Tata, which is the Lord is the supreme, Lord is the only maintainer. Like that. And then Karpanyam and Arpanivedana. Humility and surrendering. Full surrender. Surrender means Atma. Surrendering your soul to the Lord. Sad Vidhi Sharanagati. These are the 6 symptoms of surrender of someone.
Prabhuji, if one becomes free from the duality, meaning that, heat, cold, etc., will he or she be still having pride or pride? How these are related?
What?
The pride factor and one transcending the duality. How are they related? Because here, of course, Prabhupada is saying that one becomes freed from the dualities, he will be surrendering. But does that mean that he would have overcome the pride as well, or the pride factor?
What?
The dualities of happiness and distress, essentially, not the heat and cold.
Yeah. Because pride gives, at the end of the day, why do we become proud? Because we think that we want to be happy by being proud. We are very proud, and the pride gives us happiness. So once you are out of the duality, then there is no question of being proud.
Because I'm thinking from the other angle, right? There are a lot of yogis who practice yogas and they are completely out of dualities, do a lot of yogic stuff, but still they meet a point.
That Bhagavad Prabhu will answer that question. He has a verse for that. He is expert in that verse. He is talking about people who are who can withstand, the fire, heat of the fire, the cold of the winter. I forgot, can you please? Then last line. See, I told you Bhagavad Prabhu is expert in that verse. So you can sit offline, he will tell you. Or tomorrow, right now you must be tired, no? Not now. Exactly. You are tired. So tomorrow Mangalarti he will tell you. Morning he will be fresh at 3:30. So you ask him. He will tell you this verse. Because he has realized that verse. So he is not affected by the duality. So it is mentioned, so in that verse, where Rahuguna is, and who is Jadabharat and Rahuguna, in that pastime it is mentioned, Jadabharat is telling Rahuguna that what is that translation?
One cannot attain love of God by...
One cannot?
Attain love of God from...
One cannot attain love of God simply by taking a bath in the winter in the cold waters, neither by surrounding oneself with the heat of fire. Scorching summer, yeah. But one can only get love of God by smearing dust of the pure devotees on the head. So yes, so people may have overcome bodily constraints, but that doesn't still mean that they have overcome pride. In that sense, yes.
In that sense,
yeah. But definitely people who have overcome pride by devotional service are beyond happiness and distress.
Yes, okay.
Like that. So Lord Krishna now answers two questions. What is nature of the place that a detached, surrendered soul will attain? So somebody is actually, finally somebody is detached, then what is the nature of the place that that person will attain? And if one goes there, will a person come back at all? Asking. So the Lord is explaining that supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So Burijan Prabhu writes that the Lord gives a glimpse of the spiritual world, that world where having gone nobody will return. He gives a glimpse of it in 8.20 as well. So can we go back and see 8.20? Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So there also Lord Krishna has given a glimpse of the spiritual world. And again in this verse he is yet again giving an example of that same spiritual world. So a very nice description is given, which all of you would have read and come, but if not, then you can go home and read. So Prabhupada is saying that we should be actually captivated when we read this description of the spiritual world. If we are not captivated with the description of this spiritual world, then we will be enamored with the objects of this material world and continue in sense enjoyment and endlessly transfer ourselves from one field of activity to another. So we must develop a taste for the descriptions of the spiritual world. Otherwise Prabhupada says we will be jumping from one branch of the tree to another branch of the tree. So who are we then? In the cycle of samsara. So that is one of the reasons that the Lord comes to this material world. He doesn't come only to annihilate the demons, because annihilating the demons can always happen by his mere thought. He doesn't have to come and fight with Hiranyakashipu to win out, to annihilate the demons. He doesn't even have to come to the material world. All he can do is send some bacteria, some virus into Hiranyakashipu, He is finished anyway, Some diabetes or something will come, or something else, viral flu, viral infection. So he doesn't have to come himself to kill someone. So still why does he come? So the main reason he comes is to attract us to the spiritual world. Now why does he have to attract us? You can argue, if he wants he can just pull and say chalo hai, bahut ho gaya. He can always take us like that. But why does he want to attract us? Because he doesn't want to impede with our free will. So he really wants us to get attracted. So therefore Prabhupada says he has given us the scriptures where he is describing the spiritual world. So we must read that, and the more we read that, more we will get captivated. So if we are not getting captivated, something is wrong there. That means we are very happy with the courtyard of our independent house and the flowers growing there. Which also sometimes we have to, we cannot maintain, so we put stones there. Correct? So therefore we have to be enamored, Prabhupada says, with this description. And Srila Prabhupada also writes about the spiritual world in this purport and how the Mahat Tattva is covering the spiritual world. The effulgence of the spiritual world is covered by the Mahat Tattva for us. Because we decide we are Bahirmukhi. That's why. Also Prabhupada says that then we must hear from a genuine sannyasi, and then we must go back to, we must hear about the spiritual world from genuine practitioners of bhakti. And that's how we will develop our attraction, and not from bogus people. Prabhupada in fact writes here that just because someone is wearing saffron doesn't mean that he is a sannyasi. Though sannyasi wears saffron, but everyone wearing saffron is not a sannyasi. In Vrindavan you will see many people are going around in saffron with that photo in their hand, and one monkey also will be there. The mother also wears saffron sometimes. The bandar is going behind, like that. So bhakti is not about being in saffron. In fact, in one sense, it is not even necessary to be a sannyasi. In one sense, to be a tattvadarshi, you don't have to necessarily be a sannyasi. That's why Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kene, Nai. Ye Krishna Tattvaveta, say Guru Hai. Which means, you need not be any part of any particular ashram. You can be a Shudra, you can be born in any species. But if you know the science of Krishna, then Ye Krishna Tattvaveta, say Guru Hai. Then you can be called as a Guru. This is from Madhya Leela 8.128. The living entities in this conditioned world, text 7. This text 7 is a key memory verse. It will certainly come in your exam. Please note down with 5 stars. Simply by writing that you will get marks. The process of getting marks will start. Because you will study. 5 star you put. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses which include the mind. Mamai vamsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Very widely spoken verse in ISKCON. So there is a big purport that Prabhupada is giving. But essentially, the word Sanatan is described here. Sanatan means what? Mamaiva Amsha. Mamaiva Amsha means every living being is a part and parcel. Amsha of mind. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Sanatana means that every living entity is an eternal fragment. So our identity is never destroyed by time. Never was a time when you were not there, I was not there, neither this army. We studied when we did the first chapter. Second chapter, sorry. Yeah? Second chapter. So, our existence is eternal. So, here the Jiva's eternality as an individual soul is emphasized. And this individual soul's existence is not illusory, as the Mayavadis claim. Okay. Even in the spiritual world, this individuality will continue. Why are the Mayavadis wrong? Where do they go wrong? Please hear this carefully. Okay. It will come as an essay or something, open book question. Where do the Mayavadis go wrong? The Mayavadis think that individuality is a function of conditioning. Does it make sense? Yes. We discussed that before also, in great detail, if you remember. Individuality is not a result of conditioning. Shall I explain or everyone knows?
Please explain.
Okay. So the Mayavadis say that all are one. One means we are not individual, correct? Sab ek hai, they say. Correct? And then they say that you are perceiving your individual existence outside of that one single Brahman because you are conditioned. That is what they say. Because of your conditioning, you think that I and you are different, but actually you and I are one. You are God, I am God, we are all God. Okay? But because of conditioning, then we think we are individual. Actually, we are not individual. We are that same omnipotent, omnipresent God. And once you attain liberation, you will attain that you are only that. Tattvamasi. I am that. Like that. Okay? So this is bogus Mayavadi philosophy, which is clearly defeated by Lord Krishna in the second chapter itself, where he is saying, never was a time that you didn't exist, I didn't exist, nor any of these people exist. Neither will there be a time when you will not exist. So and here also Lord is saying, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So this Amsha is Sanatana, eternal. You as eternal, fragmental part and particles, you are eternal in that nature. Jiva Swarupa Hoy Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabha Bhritya. Only Krishna is the Supreme Personality. All others are servants. So this is the nature of our soul. We are eternal servants of the Lord. So this defeats the Mayavadi claim that the soul is illusory, that's all. The soul is, the individual existence of the soul is illusory. No, it is real. The soul will continue to be individual even when it goes back to the spiritual world. Otherwise there is no exchange of rasa possible. Without the soul and Krishna being separate, what exchange is possible? No, like that. So it is not that the soul assumes individuality in this conditioned life. That is not correct. And then only in liberated state he becomes one with the Supreme Lord. It's not like that. The soul remains individual in the conditioned state of life, and the soul remains individual even in the liberated state of life. Except for those who aspire for Sayujya Mukti, which is derided by the devotees. Even in other Sarupya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, everywhere you will find that individuality is there. Then Prabhupada further writes that Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion of the Lord and Jiva Tattva are the separated expansions of the Lord. Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and Jiva Tattva are separated expansion, and both have their individual identities. Again Prabhupada repeats, every Jiva is qualitatively also eternal. And we are Tathastha Shakti. Though we are qualitatively one with the Lord, we are Tathastha, we are marginal potency, because of which we have a tendency to fall down and be dominated by the three modes of material nature. And how do the three modes of material nature dominate over the soul? Through the agency of the mind. That is why mantra. Again I was mentioning in today's Saturday Bhagavad Gita class, mantra means what? That which delivers the mind. Mantra. Man means mind. Tra means that which delivers. So therefore, here Lord Krishna is saying that everyone is struggling with the six senses which include the mind. So only the mantra can deliver the mind. Otherwise the three modes of material nature will constantly disturb us through our mind. Prabhupada writes, what to speak of Mamaya Vamsha, we and you and me. Even animals are part and parcels of the Lord. Prakriti sthani karshati. Karshati means what? We are struggling very hard. Karshati means hard struggle. Because the modes of material nature is binding us by iron chains. It gives us false ego. False ego binds us in this material world, and mind is the chief agent. Is the chief agent which is driving us in material existence. Our own mind. So Prabhupada says that mind, which is under modes of material nature, drives us to good activities sometimes or to troublesome or sinful activities another time. Good activities when the mind is when the mode of goodness is acting on us. Troublesome activities in the mode of passion, and sinful activities in the mode of goodness. In the mode of ignorance. We saw that in the previous class also. And Prabhupada writes that at liberation the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as the bodily construction is concerned, then there is no difference between the part and parcel living entity and the expansions of Vishnu Murti. So once a jiva goes back to the spiritual world, especially in one of the Sarupya Mukti, then the jiva gets a form which is very similar to the Lord's form. This is, in the realm of Vaikuntha. In Goloka, what happens? There is no 400 form of the devotee in Goloka. Okay. Every devotee gets a form based on the rasa which he wants to enjoy with the Lord. Based on our eternal constitutional position, he will be reinstated there. So, this verse hints at the power of the mind in determining the future of the conditioned soul, determining the jiva's future. And the next verse continues to emphasize how, determined by his thoughts, a soul attains his next body. We attain our next body based upon our thoughts. So we'll end there at verse 8 today. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another body. So Prabhupada writes that when the wind is blowing over a fragrant rose garden, what does it acquire? The wind acquires a sweet scent. Whereas when the same air is running over sewage, then what happens? It stinks. Now, is the air stinking or is the air fragrant? Nothing. The air in contact with the object decides its behavior, how it comes to our nose. Right? Otherwise the air is very neutral. In itself, the sweetness or the foulness is acquired by the air and it is not inherent in the air. It's acquired from outside. So it is not the scent of the air but the scent of the object that the air has contacted. Does it make sense? That is what makes it fragrance or a foul smell. Similarly, the soul trapped in the gross body and subtle mind, it is trapped. The soul is trapped and that's why it's experiencing what it is experiencing. Otherwise, the soul actually remains aloof from the three modes of material nature. It has got nothing to do with, regardless of mode of ignorance, mode of goodness, the soul remains very aloof. But because it's contacting, Manashashtan Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Kasati. Because we are in contact, we are struggling with the six senses. Because we associate with our body. We are in contact with material nature directly. That is why this very nice analogy that Prabhupada is giving here. So we will do verse 9 till verse 20 in the next class.